Hey guys, welcome back to another weekly developer diary. So for this week I've just got a couple little things to show you. So I've not done any pixel art this week, I've just been doing a bit of stuff in Unity. So I'll just run it and then I'll just talk you through what I've done. So the first big change you'll notice is the game is animated. So as you can see, the player movement now plays the walking animations I created. And if I stop moving in any direction, as you can see, the player just stays facing that direction. So that's like an idle animation, essentially. So that's the first thing I've worked on this week, just hooking up all the animations so that the players animate correctly. And then the second thing I've been working on is, as you can see, I can no longer walk into these bushes, or like this fence, because now I've made it so there's actually like collision. So the way that works is essentially, as you can see here, these are the tile maps, and they're basically each tile map here is a different layer. So how it works is this solid layer basically makes it so the player just can't walk into it, because it's a solid thing that the player should be able to walk to. So right now I've got the floor layer, which is just these grass tiles and the dirt tiles. The solid layer, which are these, like, you know, the trees, the house, the fences, the rocks, the things the player wouldn't be able to walk straight through. And then this layer, which I've not done anything with yet, called Encounterable, which is these like long grass tiles. And I've got this layer separate because it's not a solid, because I want the player to be able to walk through the grass, but it's going to have something different from the floor, which is, because I've done random encounters before in the past, and the way I'm thinking of implementing it is essentially there'll be a script that when the player walks onto a grass tile like so, it'll essentially run a random generator from say 1 to 10, and if it's the number 1, it'll trigger a random encounter. So essentially the way it'll work is each time the player walks onto a long grass tile, there'll be a random percent chance for a random counter to be initiated, which it would, when the game's finished, then start a battle. So that's all I've got to show this week, because other than this, I've mainly just been doing uni work, which consisted of doing a lot of like OpenGL graphic stuff. So like in our previous lab, I had to create a like rotating cube and then make it like give it different textures, and I messed around with a lot of like shape in it, giving like it like a chrome color with like different textures and whatnot. It was all quite interesting, to be fair. But I've mostly been busy with that, which I might be able to show you that next week if I just download it onto my home PC. So other than just the getting the collisions started and the player animated, I've been doing that. And since I talked through the collision bit, I'll show you how the animator works. Essentially, you have the idle animations here and the walk animations, and these are called blend trees. Essentially, this is a blend tree of the idle animations, and basically what it means is when the player is moving, here if I click on here, essentially when the player's moving down, meaning their Y is going down here, as you can see, it'll trigger the idle down animation, whereas if the player's last input made its Y positive, so +1, it'll trigger the idle up animation. And the same for left and right, but with the X. And I do this by having a move X and move Y variable, meaning, oh, if the player is moving X, so if the player is moving X this way, as you see, this little red dot shows that it's going to this, which is the idle left animation. And then essentially I've got the same for the walk animations, just The only difference being that these are the walk animations rather than the idle animations. And then in order to swap between the two, I simply have a Boolean variable called isMoving that in my code it'll return to the animator whether the player is moving or not. And if the player is moving, it'll go to the walk animations, as you see from this transition here. And if the player isn't moving, it'll go back to these idle animations. And since I've made these idle animations are actual animations and not just a static sprite, although I have made them a single sprite, I'm always able to change them. So for example, I could very easily just make it so the player has just an idle animation rather than just stood there. Maybe just, I don't know, maybe just make it so they bob up and down a slight bit or make them blink. It'd be very easy to implement. So that's all I've got to show this week. As for next week, I think I want to create a few more tiles in a sprite, as well as maybe create a new enemy, or make a start on animating the player character in battle. I know there's a lot of work to do, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm still interested in it, so... Yeah, I think for next week I'll probably create a few more tiles, maybe do a bit more art, but I also want to make sure I'm still making good progress in Unity. So I might just paint more of an area, so I've got maybe like, a starting village created for the start of the game. As well as just fixing some bugs with the collision, because the collision isn't perfect right now. So as you can see here, one issue I've got is because the player is actually bigger than an actual tile, as you can see, the player can't walk on these tiles here due to the player's hitbox colliding with this fence. So just a few little bug fixes like that I need to fix with the collision, but other than that it's mostly working. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next week. Alright, peace.